Welcome to The Juice, where I sit down with cutting-edge business owners and unique, interesting, and inspiring individuals to learn, laugh, and grow. Today's featured guest is Scott Orr. Scott's a single father,
I'm free.
owner of his own family law and mediation practice. Welcome, Scott. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here.
Awesome. So here's a juice for you. Hope you enjoy it.
What do we got in here?
And there's a bunch of good stuff. There is celery, kale, apple, cucumber, parsley. Taste it and see how you like it.
Interesting.
Is it good?
Very good.
Awesome. Okay. I don't know if you really mean that, but I think it's pretty good.
It is good.
So before we really get into the depth of this conversation here, would you be up for playing a game?
Absolutely.
All right, so here's the story. What we're going to do is I'm going to ask you a certain amount of questions, and if you answer all of those questions in 60 seconds, the videographer, Mike, is going to put our timer on, then you will get a gift card.
Okay, great.
But if you don't, you just get to talk to me.
Even better. I win either way.
Okay, awesome. So, ready?
I'm ready.
All right, what's your favorite juice drink?
This one.
Favorite president?
I like Reagan.
Cat or dog?
Dog.
What inspired you to do what you do?
Helping people.
Any tattoos?
None.
Tattoos or piercings?
None.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What is your best characteristic?
I care.
What is the best advice someone has given you?
Let your second thought be your first action.
Ooh, I like that. Are you a morning or night person?
Night.
Favorite movie?
I love The Natural.
That's a good one. Favorite song?
Ooh, that's a good one too. There's a lot of good songs. I like Ants Marching, Dave Matthews.
Cool. You won.
I won? How do you know?
Do
you have the timer?
Yeah, he would have put something up.
What'd I win?
$10 gift card to Juice Press.
Nice.
Go have a great juice.
Awesome. I can now try different varieties.
Exactly. You ready to get going?
Absolutely. Let's move.
All right. So, what's your passion? What gets you up in the morning?
It's a great question, Pam. What gets me up in the morning, what has me really sort of motivated is that I have an opportunity to help families move on from something that's very difficult and keep their kids above all else.
So I guess we should tell the viewers I'm going to go into it a little bit later, but what you do so they understand what you mean.
Right, so I'm a family lawyer, but also a family mediator. So I help families uncouple or divorce. It's an ugly word. There's really not a nice word for it, but that's what I do.
That's a great thing to be passionate about because so often they turn out so ugly.
Yeah.
And if you can be that anchor for them.
Right.
Yeah, cool. What are some wellness tips or regimens that you can share with the viewers that you have for yourself?
You know, it's funny, when we were raising our kids, they always say, if they're bad, give them a timeout. I feel that a timeout is essential for our own wellness. Sometimes when I feel that there's a lot of stress or a lot of time constraints or a lot of to-dos on my list, the best thing I can do is pause. And with that pause, I'm able to refresh, gather, and then address what has to be urgent and important as opposed to just this noise that's floating all around.
So when you refresh, do you often have a different response than you would have had you been reactionary?
Yeah, and then that's going back to the advice somebody gave me. You know, normally what you feel is when you have so many things you have to press and keep going forward. And what often happens is sometimes your gut's right and you make the right decision, but if you move too quickly, you can make mistakes and say, oh, how would I have done that better? Giving that moment a pause, you're able to sort of look at things from different angles and maybe come at it in a way that's going to be a better result.
So to piggyback on that, so many people are moving at such a rapid pace today that they don't even know how to pause. And I think knowing you for a while, even your personality is pretty fast paced.
Yeah.
How do you consciously take the moment to pause to refresh?
Yeah, you gotta sort of learn new habits, whether it's the rubber band on your wrist that you snap or whether it's something you set on your clock to remind you, and then it sort of becomes second nature. But even if you're in that sort of rhythm where you know that you have to pause, it's unnatural during that time of urgency or having to get things done to think, I'm going to be better served by stepping back. And you sort of just continue to remind yourself until it becomes something you do as a regimen.
That's really good advice. In your job, you deal with people going through divorces, as you mentioned. Mm-hmm. I imagine it can get ugly at times.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, Pam, that I try and do is to help people realize that it can get ugly, but what are you winning? Nobody wins in this, right? It's the divorcing with dignity. It's understanding that we can take it down that road, but let's look at that the next step. Let's look at that 3 steps down. Let's look at that 3 months, 3 years. Is this really that important? Do you want to argue about spoons? I'm not your guy. Do you want to argue because he's not a good enough dad or she's not a good enough mom? You're gonna have to prove it to me first. So I try to avoid letting it get ugly, if that makes sense, which differentiates me a little bit in the field.
Well, yeah, because a lot of people actually feed off of that and encourage that.
Right.
So my question for you about you and not so much your clients is, how do you stay centered and positive when mediating the anger, hurt, and negativity? And that's such a big part of your day. How do you remain grounded?
How do I remain grounded? Well, sometimes they say success begets success, but I find that the reason I'm successful is because of the adverse sort of things that have happened in my own life, or the things that I've faced. Going through my own divorce, I saw that it was a very difficult process. So I was not centered, and I was grasping at straws and reaching all over and taking bad advice or running away from advice. So one of the things I try and do is center myself, because I understand that there's such emotion involved in this to the parties, whether I'm representing an individual or the couple. So if I see things going too far, I'll ask for a pause and I'll say, let me sort of rephrase what I think you're trying to say, because you're at that point in a divorce where you're wearing a jacket with 1,000,000 buttons and you know which one to press to set the other one off, and they're not really listening to what you're saying. They're hearing it a different way. So I sort of try and reposition what's being said and reset the room.
And actually, I have heard a lot of feedback about your mediation style from your clients, and everyone's been really, really happy with your support. So that's awesome. Okay, so often moms are asked this question, so it will be great to have a male perspective. Mm-hmm. How do you find the balance between running an extremely successful business with being a single dad who is also extremely present with his kids?
Another good question. The answer is you don't often find balance. You're sort of pushed and pulled on the different sides. Your goal is to stay in the middle. Think of a seesaw. Sometimes you're absolutely on one side. You've got to recognize that you're there and start walking back towards the middle. As you're there balancing, you may get pulled to the other side. So how do you stay balanced? You don't. But you just have to remember that you've got to get back to the center as soon as you can. So don't feel if you're out of balance that things are out of whack. Just recognize that you start moving the other direction and you'll get balanced again.
Yeah, and I think forgiveness and forgiving yourself is really important, and being kind to yourself, because it's all a journey, it's all a process.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no end game.
Right.
It's constant learning and reflection, and but you have to move forward saying, I may have done that differently, but I can't change what's happened. You don't drive looking through the rearview mirror.
Right, and don't beat yourself up.
Right.
So, what does success mean to you?
People are coming to me. I'm sort of like the coroner, not the doctor for a marriage. Right. I make sure when I have somebody, whether it's a client or mediation, are you sure you're done with this? Because I can't help you stay married. That's not my job. So it's tough to measure my success because I'm divorcing people, I'm changing lives. But I measure my success based on the feedback that I get, based on how they react to each other, how they can learn to co-parent together, how they can recognize that after this, it's a new beginning, not an end. And the best thing that I am able to do, I feel my success, is when I make an agreement between a couple and I get feedback from them, or I get back to them a month, year later, and they say, Scott, we got that agreement, we put it in the drawer, we've never had to look at it.
That's awesome.
We get along, or we keep the kids above all else, and we're just moving forward.
We don't need to use that as our measurement. They flow instead.
Right, so my success is based on them not using what I did for them.
Exactly. But they need it anyway, so they
of course.
Okay. What is the best way for the viewers to contact you?
You can visit my website, scorelaw.com, SCORR
We'll
law.
post that for you.
You can call me, 201-932-1199, or you can email me, scotto@scorelaw.com, or you can contact Pam.
And what is your number one tip you can share with the people watching to live their best lives?
Depending on where you are in your life, just recognize that's where you're supposed to be. everybody's sort of searching for something else. Everybody wants the new end game, or everybody wants to change where they are. The only thing we have is right now. So the decision you make right now is the best one that you can make to move yourself forward. But don't look too far ahead. Recognize you're here for a reason.
I love that. And just knowing you for over, 15 years now, it tells me how far you've come, which I think is amazing. So, you're a great example for our viewers. Last question.
Sure.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have?
People often ask, how'd you get into this, right? So, you grow up with your kid, you want to be a fireman or a doctor. I don't think anybody really grows up wanting to be a divorce mediator or divorce attorney. So, when you ask, how do you do this? I think I fell into this because of the passion that I have for it and helping people. And, I get criticized by other attorneys for caring too much. And I think that's maybe the question is, what differentiates you? And that is because I want you and your spouse to be able to do this the right way. Make sure your kids are and always will be the focus. I want you to be able to put them through college, not my kids through college. And you'll get through this. Just keep breathing.
And the truth is, you doing this for them is changing our culture and society as a whole, not just that one couple you're working on, because the happier and more comfortable people are and less angry, the better for the collective community.
Absolutely. And I look at this as a business on how I can help people, right? I'm not sitting here trying to rifle approach somebody and just getting them divorced. If they need mental health, if they need physical health, they need a real estate agent, they need a coach, I have that sort of hub and spoke mentality where I'm able to put them in touch with other people because I want them to be, like you said, balanced.
Right.
During and after.
Awesome. All right, well, this was really great. I think the viewers are going to love hearing what you have to say. Super informative, and thank you so much.